Long before the thunder of European knights echoed across medieval fields, a different breed of armored warrior ruled the blood-soaked battlefields of antiquity. These were the Cataphracts, ancient armored cavalry whose mere presence could turn the tide of empires. Over 1,000 years before chivalry and jousting tournaments, Cataphracts were already perfecting the art of heavy cavalry shock warfare, unleashing tactics and technology so advanced they would inspire the legendary knights of the Middle Ages. Their charge was not just a military maneuver, it was a storm of iron and muscle, a force that shattered infantry lines and left entire armies fleeing in terror. The story of the Cataphract begins in the wind-swept steppes and rugged mountains of Central Asia. It was here, around 400 BCE, that nomadic peoples like the Saka, Scythians, and Parthians began forging the world's first true heavy cavalry. Their innovation was simple yet revolutionary: cover both horse and rider in overlapping scales of metal, turning man and beast into a single, unstoppable engine of war. The Greeks called them Cataphractos, meaning fully armored. And when these titans first appeared on the battlefield, they changed the rules of combat forever. Forged from bronze at first, later from iron and steel, Cataphract armor was a marvel of ancient engineering. Each scale was carefully sewn onto a leather backing, creating a flexible shell that protected every inch from head to knee. Horses, too, were clad in barding, plates covering the head, neck, chest, and flanks, transforming them into living battering rams. The full kit weighed up to 80 pounds for the rider and just as much for the warhorse. Only the largest, strongest steeds, like the famed Persian Nicaean horse, bred through generations for this very purpose, could bear such a load and still charge into the fray. But the Cataphract's power was more than just armor. These warriors wielded the contos, a 12-foot lance gripped in both hands, designed to punch through shields, flesh, and bone. In close combat, they swung long swords, maces, and sometimes composite bows, raining death from a distance before smashing into the enemy with unstoppable force. Their helmets, conical, face-covering, and often adorned with terrifying crests, completed the image of a warrior who seemed more machine than man. Training for this elite brotherhood was harsh and lifelong. From childhood, sons of aristocratic families learned the arts of war, mastering horsemanship, weapons, and formation riding. Strength and endurance were honed to legendary levels. Only the most dedicated could withstand the weight and pressure of full armor in battle. Military honor and a strict warrior code bound these men together, forging a brotherhood where reputation and loyalty mattered more than life itself. Maintaining a Cataphract force required a kingdom's wealth. Breeding programs for the mighty horses, skilled blacksmiths to craft armor and weapons, and entire supply chains to feed and equip these warriors placed a heavy economic burden on ancient states. Yet for empires like the Parthians, Sassanids, and Romans, the investment paid off in victory after victory. The Cataphract was the ultimate weapon, a symbol of aristocratic power and technological mastery. On the battlefield, Cataphracts were shock troops, designed to break the enemy's will with a single devastating charge. Their appearance alone, towering figures gleaming with metal, horses snorting and stamping, struck terror into the hearts of opposing soldiers. When unleashed, they drove deep wedges into infantry formations, splintering shields, and sending men scattering in panic. The psychological impact was as great as the physical. Stories spread of armies that fled at the mere rumor of Cataphract deployment. Some of history's most dramatic battles were decided by Cataphract charges. At Carrhae in 53 BCE, Parthian Cataphracts crushed the Roman legions, their ironclad cavalry riding down disciplined infantry who had never faced such power. In the endless wars between Rome and Persia, Cataphracts proved decisive time and again. At Nisibis, Dara, and Amida, their thunderous assaults changed the fate of empires. Even in siege warfare, these armored warriors found ways to dominate, battering through city gates and overwhelming defenders with brute force. The Romans, once humbled by these armored riders, studied their tactics with grim determination. By the 2nd century CE, Rome had fielded its own Cataphract units, Equites Cataphractari and Clibanarii, integrating this shock cavalry into the legendary Roman military machine. On the frontiers of the East, Roman and later Byzantine Cataphracts became the backbone of imperial defense. blending heavy armor with disciplined infantry tactics to form an almost invincible wall. Yet it was the Sassanid Persians who perfected the cataphract system. Their armies revolved around heavy cavalry, drawing from the ranks of the aristocracy and training warriors for a lifetime of service. Equipment standards reached heights unmatched in the ancient world, with custom-fitted armor, meticulously crafted weapons, and sophisticated command structures. The result was a military force that could stand toe-to-toe with any enemy and often come away victorious. But the age of the cataphract was not eternal. As new enemies arose, from the swift horse archers of the steppes to the disciplined foot soldiers of the Arab conquests, the mighty armored cavalry began to lose its edge. Economic strains, political upheaval, and ever-evolving tactics chipped away at their dominance. The cost of maintaining such elite forces became unsustainable for many ancient states, and the rise of new military technologies spelled the end of the cataphracts' reign. Yet their legacy was far from lost. The shock tactics, armor designs, and aristocratic warrior culture of the cataphracts became the foundation for the medieval knight. Byzantine cataphracts taught crusaders the art of the lance charge. Their armor inspired the plate mail of chivalric Europe. Their codes of honor and brotherhood echoed in the halls of castles and the vows of feudal lords. The cataphract was the bridge between the savage heroism of antiquity and the romantic ideals of the Middle Ages. Archaeological finds, scale armor fragments, Kantos lances, and horse burials attest to their power and prestige. Ancient reliefs and mosaics immortalize their charge, while written histories recount the battles that shaped the world. Their influence stretched from the deserts of Palmyra to the forests of Sarmatia, with every culture adapting the cataphract to its own needs and values. Some prize mobility and archery, others raw shock and iron discipline, but all recognize the cataphract as the ultimate warrior of the ancient world. The story of the cataphract is one of innovation, courage, and dramatic transformation. These warriors changed the course of history, forging empires with steel and thunder. Their fate, decline, survival, or transformation, remains one of the greatest sagas of ancient war. What became of the last cataphracts as the world shifted toward new battles, new weapons, and new heroes? The answer is a tale waiting to be uncovered, a legacy that echoes in every legend of armored knights who rode into the jaws of death and emerged victorious. And as long as men dream of honor, power, and glory on the battlefield, the legend of the cataphract will never truly fade.